every One Punch Man swordsman isn't close.
The red-haired pirate Shanks versus everyone.
Oh yeah, this is he's stopping that empty void. Then he's stopping that empty void. I don't know about. Wait. He Flash. I don't know. But definitely stopping that empty void in base with a smile on his face.
Punch Man Swordsman is something that I've always wanted to do,
AKA Empty Goat.
The Zoro vs Kamikaze video. Shanks, a pirate who dueled several times with the proclaimed strongest swordsman in the world, proceeds to test himself against One Punch Man's most decorated swordsman. In this video, we'll try to assess every character's swordsmanship skills, abilities, physical stats and hacks to find out how much Shanks can handle in the One Punch Man verse. We'd also talk about the possibility of these characters fighting in equal stats and eventually deduce who really holds the best swordsmanship skills. But before that, do not forget to consider slashing the subscribe button and the notification bell for more of these matchup videos. Thank you.
Who holds that?
Shanks is one of the most beloved One Piece characters, became one of the 4 emperors in such a young age, which is a position given to the most powerful, well-established captains in the world. He's considered to be Luffy's greatest inspiration and ultimately his endgame rival. Now, it's very important to understand that even though the true scope of his power level is still very unknown, we can still regardless scale him or compare him to other characters who has been stated to somehow being on a similar pedestal, such as Shanks being the only pirate alive who has been included in Kaido's top 5 figures who can provide a challenge and possibly even fight him to the death. Also showed clear relativity to Old Whitebeard not only in strength but also in Haki mastery, one-shotted a big-time pirate like Kid who contributed in Big Mom's defeat and made a full-fledged admiral tremble in fear just from the sight of his conqueror's Haki. This made people in the community consider the possibility that Shanks could be literally the strongest character in the verse, with even his proficient Haki mastery paired with his named attack suggests that maybe we should consider him as the modern era Goldie Roger, something that should not be far-fetched. But you see, when talking about overall swordsmanship skills, it's very ambiguous if Shanks is a swordman who lives by the way of the sword, such as Mihawk or Zoro. That's why for the sake of this video, we'll assume in regards of techniques and skills, he's someone who can contend with these two. But nonetheless, when talking about his overall physical stats, since we've already established his relativity to his fellow emperors, Shanks should scale to both Kaido and Luffy, who both are by the very least continental. There literally exist multiple cacks of Luffy and Kaido generating around 2 to 12,000 petatons of TNT, putting them around the continental to multi-continental range in terms of attack potency when performing their strongest attacks. And since Shanks is someone who was implied to be on par with Kaido, he should operate at somehow similar levels. Now when it comes to speed, as I've said multiple times in my previous videos, I'm well aware that it's very difficult for a lot of people to register the fact that One Piece characters are legit light speed in terms of reaction and combat movements. We have multiple concrete statements such as Kizaru with no effort kicking Hawkins at the speed of light, and Luffy and Zoro casually dodging Kuma's lasers that were—
Bro, on the people that be downplaying. I know, like, I don't be downplaying. But when you go on social media, bro, I see that. But yeah, the Naruto fans, like Naruto, bro, I don't know why they always be down. They be downplaying the crap out of One Piece character, bro. I'm like, every One Piece character, bro, they downplaying the mess out of them, bro. I just keep quiet on it. I just keep quiet on both of them. Cause I like both of them.
Recreated from Kizaru's light, although I want to preference that this now holds a very shaky foundation since Vegapunk himself stated that he can't really recreate Logia's abilities, which means that Hawking's statement could be wrong and Kuma's lasers could be slower than Kizaru's. This is an irrelevant note since we've already seen characters such as Sanji, Marco and Rayleigh intercept Kizaru's lasers, which means they should be on the relativistic to light speed level. However, if you want to go by by Cax, then Luffy in Egghead while fighting Kizaru and dodging his lasers was capped at 4 times the speed of light, and even Sanji prior was capped at a level even beyond, something that Shanks, who's an Emperor pirate, should scale considerably above. Now, in regards of his hacks and abilities, Shanks has been showing consistently that when it comes to Haki mastery, he's just clearly above everybody else, having perfect command over all the 3 elements, such as showing the ability to see into the future in a span way above to that of Luffy's, can send signals of Conqueror's Haki thousands of kilometers away, and has obviously access to anything regarding Haki that was already displayed in the series. He can still hold many other abilities that we still don't know about, since as I said before, he's a very ambiguous character, someone whose full arsenal and power is very unknown. But with all of this being said, how would he fare up against One Punch Man's elite swordsman? I'm sure you can see that the One Punch Man manga has deliberately implanted a variety of different sets of fighting styles and overall techniques that all fall under the same power system. Swordsmanship is one of these styles that is frequently employed by the
it's a lot of swordsmen too, man. It's a lot of them too.
Majority of characters in the series, but as you all know, the word swordman in anime tends to be a vague description that somehow still confuses a lot of people. You see, a swordman in anime and manga is not anyone who fights with the sword, but more so often holds a philosophical approach of living by the way of the sword, kinda like dedicating your life to it. Best example is someone like Face Ripper cannot be called a swordman in the same context as, let's say, Atomic Samurai. The reason this is needed to be addressed is because in Kamikaze's data book, it was stated that he is the strongest swordman on Earth. This definitely doesn't include characters such as Flashy Flash, who is a ninja who uses a sword, but not in the same context as a legit swordman like Atomic Samurai. But nonetheless, would still be including prominent characters who uses a sword but doesn't really need to live by it. With that being said, the characters would be including are Atomic Samurai, Nichiren, G5, Sonic, Flashy Flash, and last but not least, Empty Void. Now, as I've stated in my previous videos, Atomic Samurai and someone like Flashy Flash in terms of attack potency,
bro, the fact that the guy Empty Void up him, aka Empty Goat. Wait, what one you using? We just using base Empty Void? And we just using base Empty.
all depends on what level of strength you'd be giving Golden and Platinum as. Both Flash and Kamikaze should generally scale above Island level for showing clear supremacy over Darkshine, who got one-shotted by a character they both were able to fight and tank. But in order to get a precise level, you can always use the strength of an A-class hero multiplied by 54 trillion cells that was based on Homeless Emperor's statement. You'd eventually come up with 2 different possibilities, which is them being either small country level or by highball could reach much higher. However, it's very important to note that this method is highly controversial, since in chapter 171, Black Ass stated that now he is too weak that even a puppy can defeat him. But the math doesn't add up in this case, because if you go and multiply the strength of a puppy by 54 trillion times, he'd still be a very weak monster, unlike what the manga portrayed him to be. So for this specific reason, we'd still be considering the low and the high ends of the first spectrum. Sonic and Nichiren should be below these two, but still somehow comparable in strength, as the former was able to tank Flashy Flash's consecutive fist and punched him in the face and made him bleed, which means they should scale around Island level or maybe slightly above. G5 on the other hand should be the weakest on this list. A high level demon should be above the likes of the Deep Sea King, who scales in between large town to city level in terms of attack potency. And last but not least, we've got Empty Void, who is the strongest character who uses a sword in the series. Definitely scales to Blast, who was able to contain the energy of this series Punch Square that was capped at multi-solar system level at the very least. There are obviously other characters who uses a sword that wouldn't be included in this video, such as Gale Wind and Hellfire Flame, who both threw their swords in order to fight Flashy Flash. Alright.
I forgot about them too.
And now let's talk about speed. I've already explained the
Speed's
different
always
One
gonna be
Punch Man
crazy.
light speed metas in my previous videos, and I've said there are 2 to 3 options to gauge their proper speed. It's whether you go by calcs or use the different statements and feats provided in the manga. You see, Atomic Samurai casually reacting and moving to intercept G5 lasers that was meant to catch him off guard was calced at 4 times the speed of light, something that Nichiren should be able to duplicate narratively speaking, which means that a character like Flashy Flash should upscale from this since he was fighting 2 speedsters who outperformed any other character at that time in terms of speed, meaning Sonic should operate at somehow similar speed since he was at least able to contend with Flashy Flash, who was obviously not bloodlusted and doesn't really wanna kill him. So in this regard, with the exception of maybe G5 calculations wise, these characters should vary from faster than light to faster than light plus in terms of reaction and combat speed. Empty Void obviously scales much higher for showcasing relativity to Blast, who easily blitzed Flashy Flash. But if you wanna go over the different statements and feats in the manga, then you have a character like Awakened Cockroach implying that a speed of light attack wouldn't even be able to catch him, a weak character like Lightning Max can fight at the speed of lightning, and Genos dodging multiple lasers that were confirmed to hold the properties of light. All of these are honestly very controversial, but would still consider both metas for this specific video. Now in terms of abilities and techniques, it's very evident that Atomic Samurai, Nichiren, and maybe G5 by copying are the best when it comes to overall swordsmanship skills. You can literally say that they have their own power system. As it was stated, they can circulate their own ki in their weapon to perform feats such as Nichiren's Fast Slash that destroyed a plateau behind an apple that didn't even notice it has been cut, Kamikaze's Atomic Slash that makes him cut up to 100 times in a short period of time, and not to mention the Sunblade Amp that should rise his techniques
that
much
Sunblade,
further.
nasty.
But you see, Flashy Flash and Sonic also have experience in fighting with a sword, and not like they're just swinging without any precision. However, the most overpowered technique is obviously Void's Dimensional Blade, able to slash you literally from a different dimension, an attack that ignores distance, energy, and size. But with all of this being said, can Shanks clear all the One Punch Man swordsmen? Let's cut right.
The fact that Jump Jackson ignored what that energy distant insides, bro. Come on, man. It basically ignored everything. It's ignored its all.
To the chase, Shanks is someone who can contend with the high-tier characters in One Punch Man. Against swordsman or not, he's destroying multiple high-tier monsters and heroes. Being continental to multi-continental with concrete calcs is something that would allow him to contend with everyone except the top tiers in the verse. But the problem that people have with One Piece characters is them being on the light speed meta. Sure, it's very controversial whether they cap at light speed or go even beyond, but they somehow have similar metas to One Punch Man. Think about it this way. When we don't rely on calcs, One Piece characters are faster than light mainly due to dodging Kuma or Kizaru's lasers. Same case goes for early Genos or Atomic Samurai dodging the same thing that was confirmed to hold the properties of light. However, what makes people swallow the same meta for One Punch Man and not so much for One Piece is because the manga is incredibly detailed. You've got Flashy Flash and 2 monster speedsters capable of creating geometric light trails in the sky in a matter of seconds, covering the whole continental, gives the idea that these characters are incredibly fast, not only in combat and reaction, but also in travel speed. So for One Punch Man, it definitely is something more than just, oh, that character dodged some lasers or whatever. But nonetheless, with having all these in consideration, how would Shanks perform against these swordmen in a 1v1 fair fight? The demon level robot or cyborg G5 is absolutely getting cooked by Shanks in any possibility you can think of.
I mean, yeah, I know that part.
Someone who is a city level character can never contend with the continental being. Even in the speed department, he should be considerably slower. In contrast to everybody else, who I feel like they could contend with Shanks in terms of combat and reaction time due to having similar meta as I said before, with possibly only bloodlusted Flashy Flash and Sunblade Atomic Samurai being on a slightly superior tier. However, being on on a similar pedestal in this regard is still beneficial to the red-haired pirate, since this guy not only is he extremely fast but can also see the future for a considerable amount of time. So being on a similar level is somehow irrelevant in this case, since this guy would 9 out of 10 predict and dodge most attacks directed at him with considerable effort. This is a very troublesome hack, especially since Shanks vastly outscales these characters in terms of attack potency. Flashy Flash and Atomic Samurai should be at least able to harm him with their country level of AP, but nothing he can't possibly tank. Even with the huge highball of them reaching Continental, it would still not be enough. They would not be aware that this guy has a high form of precognition unless if he stupidly told them in a shonen jump fashion. So despite Atomic Samurai having a surprise attack like the Atomic Slash that would catch Shanks off guard, since he doesn't know that this guy can slash in atomic levels, he would unfortunately see that outcome in a future sight vision. Same case goes for every other ability that Flashy Flash, Nichiren, and Sonic can perform. The only way to completely dismantle Shanks in this context is to be considerably faster, to the point that even if he sees the future, he wouldn't be able to avoid it. Current Flashy Flash and Sunblade Atomic Samurai are the only two that could be considerably faster than Shanks. Which brings us to the last contender, being Empty Void, who not only outscales the entire One Piece verse, but can also kill them without even comprehending with the Dimensional Slash. And to be frankly honest, he doesn't even need to go to such lengths, since he's just way faster than everybody else. It's not even funny. And even if Shanks sees the future, he doesn't have the physical stats to avoid it. That future would unfortunately always happen. So to summarize the outcome, Shanks is contending with every single one and possibly even defeat them due to his future sight. Flashy Flash and the One Punch Man verse in its entirety has more detailed and concrete speed evidence, but this whole outcome is based on Kizaru constantly moving at the speed of light. Otherwise, if not, Shanks would be cooked. And Empty Void is the only one who wouldn't have any problem dealing with the one-handed swordsman, which
in base with a smile on his face.
Brings us to the last section of this video, which is, in terms of swordsmanship and skills, can Shanks ever compete? Strictly speaking, Shanks is essence the same case as Flashy Flash. Yes, both of them are very talented with the sword, but they aren't really living by the way of the sword, dedicating their lives to hone their swordsmanship skills and attain samurai-ish techniques. In this context, Nichiren and Atomic Samurai are much better, displaying techniques more than just throwing a beam with a sword, or per se this sword can cut a whole ship, that kind of thing, but conversely cutting a plateau behind an apple and performing 100 slash in an instant, and even slashing with a toothpick. These are much better technical skills than slashing a big boulder or a ship. Pretty self-explanatory that sword techniques are taken more seriously in One Punch Man more than One Piece. And to end this video, nothing will change if they fight on equal stats, since Shanks would still have his future sight hockey ability and Empty Void would still able to slash him from outside this dimension. Thank you so much for watching, and please consider joining the Court.
And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, man. Empty Void all the way. You already know, man. Link up in the description, all that good stuff, man.